Anime for Blondes.
It was really impressive, like, how faithful the anime adaptation is so far.
Everyone's just a little sassier, I think, in the light novel.
Action!
Hello, I'm Becca.
And I'm Allie.
And welcome to Anime for Blondes.
The girly pop podcast made for girls, gays, theys, and blondes.
And book club nerds.
Welcome, book club nerds.
Hello.
This is the long-awaited Apothecary Diaries light novel book club.
Yes.
Or the Anime for Blondes book club.
I'm so excited. We've been wanting to do something like this for a while.
We've been floating this around since definitely... It was while we were still watching Apothecary Diaries, and we were like, should we read the light novels?
Because we kind of need to read these.
We kind of need to read these, and then we might as well, like, talk about it, like, with other people.
And then I feel like the deal was sealed when we did our finale episode with our girl.
With our very special guest, our girl Yumna, from @Yumna, or @NotYumna on TikTok and YouTube. You know her, you love her, our Apothecary Diaries expert.
She is just amazing. She's so smart. Whenever I've like said it before on here, but whenever I need an anime I'm watching explained, I just search to see if she's talked about it, and she always has.
She knows what she's talking about. She makes me feel smarter. She's just one of the girls, really.
She's one of the girls. And before we get into the actual episode with Yumna, we had such a good conversation with her.
We yapped.
But before we get into that, we plan to do this for all of the light novels. Apparently there's 15. They might not all be translated yet, so TBD how many we get through before the next season starts.
The goal is to like get through a good chunk of them before the next season.
Exactly. And for now, we're planning on doing it as our bonus episode every month at the end of the month on the last Wednesday. And if you want to be notified of like the questions that we're gonna do, so that you can be prepared while you're reading the book and like you know which date to have it ready by, we did make an email list, so that will be linked at the top of our description for you to sign up. It is completely free, and Allie so gracefully made some super cute digital bookmarks for you that you can like print out and use as your bookmark as well.
Yeah, we've got Anime for Blondes bookmarks. My favorite one is the one that says manga eyes.
Love.
So I hope you guys enjoy those. And yeah, every month we'll send out the details of when we're meeting and the questions we're going to ask. And then you guys can reply or message us on any of our social medias at Anime for Blondes Pod on TikTok and Instagram. Any comments or questions or anything you want included in the book club, as long as it's before the last Saturday of that month, because that is when we record.
Yes. So... The plan is we really want this to be like a true book club where like you're sitting with the girls around a table and you all read the same book and you go through like a list of questions. Like sometimes they're in the back of the book, you know, and everybody shares their thoughts. Like we want to hear from you if you have thoughts on it, or if you read one of the questions and you're like, I have some thoughts on that, let us know and we will share it here if you have any questions about it or anything like that. Or you can just be prepared, and even if you don't want to read the books, you can always just tune in to these episodes every last Wednesday of the month and just get your fill of Apothecary Diaries, Girl Chat, Cozy Book Club
while we're
vibes.
Going through our Apothecary Diaries drought. And in that vein of like being interactive, and we want it to be like as interactive and like real book clubby as is like reasonable for this being an online space. We did get a comment from, I mentioned her comment before during the recording, but I didn't say the username. Okay. So if it's okay, I just want to like say her username now so that she feels included.
Sure.
On Instagram, we got a message from Volpez Zerda Links, responding saying that this volume of the light novel, it was the volume I read the fastest, too much stuff, and too much was happening.
I definitely feel her on that one.
Yeah, there was a lot happening, and, like, we did, like, because we had seen the show, we definitely, like, felt ourselves kind of speeding through some of it. So, like, I get that.
Exactly. And especially, like, this time we are doing volume 4, which is the second half of the second season.
Yes.
So it was content we already saw, but we got a little bit with Yumna into, like, what's kind of going to happen in volume 5 without any spoilers.
We're so excited.
And we're like dying of excitement. So you guys are just going to love this conversation. Make sure that you sign up for the mailing list so that you can just keep up to date and be a part of the book club with us.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this discussion, and make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments.
And let's get into it.
Apothecary Diaries, light novel 4. Welcome to our book club. So this is the second half of the second season, I found out.
Yes, which honestly, we didn't plan it that way originally.
No, we meant to start at light novel 5, but I got it mixed up. I thought that 4 is when the show ends, but it's not. I just misread the description.
But it worked out because it's kind of like I feel like I'm back in the universe now. Like I know where I am.
It's a good refresher.
Exactly.
Yeah, and someone on Instagram said that this book has way too much packed in it, and so they were reading it really fast, and it felt like very rushed because there was so much that happened in it. And in the second half, I can see that.
Yeah, once she's like at the
fortress
stronghold, is that what it is?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Fortress stronghold in the mountains.
Yeah, once they're in the snowy place, it's very rushed, I feel like. Like a lot happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, a lot happens. But the first half, it's very like, I could just picture the show in my brain.
Oh, yeah.
Reading it. And at first I was, you know how like the narrator in the show, very much like, I don't know. She like comes in and out. She's not there often. She'll like occasionally chime in. But for the most part, she's just chilling and then she'll comment something. I thought the narrator voice would be more prevalent, but no, the voice feels very much like Momo's not Momo. Oh my gosh, there's too many.
Too many anime names.
Right now, yes. Maomao's point of view. It's very much Maomao's point of view. I feel like the tone that I read it in is more of her voice, I think.
Yeah. And I feel like she's a little different than I knew her as from the anime.
Yeah. Okay. You've read these just once through all the way before?
Yeah, so I was rereading parts of light novel 4 up until this filming because I was like, okay, it's been like 5 months since I read this, so let me like refresh my memory on some of the stuff. Yeah, I think that holds true, is that Maomao, I think at least to me, comes across a little bit harsher in the light novels because we're getting so much of her inner world. Like, I think, what did I note? I tried to make notes, but I think one of the ways that we see that come through, at least for me, was in the part where they're investigating Li Shu's baths in her pavilion, and you hear Mama's internal dialogue where she's essentially just like, it's kind of diabolical that this person is such a high-ranking concubine because she is so easy to read, which is something you should not be if you're a high-ranking anything in the world of the Apothecary Diaries. But she's like, you can read Li Shu like a book. And I guess like that criticism does carry over for some like subsequent light novels as well, where you see like Maomao be empathetic towards Li Shu, but also take a critical approach to like the way that she is. But that doesn't really come across in the anime. I think in the anime it's more just like Maomao wants to help her out, but in the light novel she's like, oh.
Yeah. I noticed that like the comparisons, like obviously she compares in her inner dialogue in the show, like the Diamond Pavilion versus the Jade Pavilion. Is that right? Okay. She's already comparing them, but she is like a lot more like harsh about it. And she's like, the Jade Pavilion girls could never do this.
Yeah, that was so funny.
She's like,
we would clean up the mold, but like they obviously, like, of course they wouldn't.
She's like, we would actually do our jobs, but hey, that's just us.
I liked it. I felt like I liked Maomao a little bit more, like understanding her brain, because like, and I've noticed this about myself recently. This is a new thing I learned about myself, is that I think I learn better reading than watching things. And so much of what I did not comprehend while watching the anime, I was like, oh my god, I get it now, reading it.
Yeah, so I think that's partially because we have the benefit of Mao's just telling us her thoughts, kind of.
Yeah.
But or the narrator, it's in third person POV, but also it's Mao's point of view. But also it's because when it's in a book, it's literally spelled out. It's literally spelled out instead of us trying to like
get the nuance.
Yeah, get the nuance.
Things.
And also there's the benefit of when, there's the issue of when we're watching it live, it's not dubbed.
True.
And then when we're reading it, I'm sure there's like differences in translation. I'll never know. Well, I'll never fully understand. But I'm sure there's differences in translation, but we have the benefit of like being able to like read it in our language. And also like we are just like kind of readers in general. So, but yeah, it was a lot easier to understand, especially the Shisho and like that all of their like family stuff. I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, all of that stuff that was like the most confusing, like trying to figure out what the family dynamics were and everything. It was like, oh, it's literally just like written out for me here.
Yes, exactly. And it did clarify that she wasn't like threatening the women she was with to it. I'm talking about Shenmei.
Yeah.
She wasn't threatening the women to like hang out with her, it seemed. She just like introduced them to bad behaviors and was like, hey, these bad behaviors are fun here with me, so it's cool if you do them. Because in the show, when Shisui, I'm gonna call her Shisui, yeah,
okay,
Lolan slaps the mom for trying to run and she starts yelling at them. I was like, oh, is she victim blaming? But no, I feel like that chapter in the light novel makes it more clear that they were just like being more neglectful and kind of corrupted by that kind of behavior. Like at first she had to like coax them into it kind of and be like, look, isn't this so fun? But now it's just like their usual habits type deal, which made me feel better because I was like, oh, why are we victim blaming in this show?
I also feel like Jinshi was so like different in the book, and like I feel like I liked him even more.
Yeah, so what's your feelings about Jinshi in the book? Because I have thoughts.
I think, man, I'm trying to think of exact moments from light novel 4, because right now I'm also rereading the light novel from the very beginning for YouTube, so I'm like trying to figure out where everyone's just a little sassier, I think, in the light novel. Like Jinshi, I think everything is just like, I think that when you're watching it in the anime, sometimes characters come across a little bit more nice or a little bit more pleasant than they actually are. Like I think that when you're reading the light novel, like characters like Hongyang, for example, come across very differently in the light novel, where like she comes across like she means business in this way that she doesn't in the anime per se. Jinshi, oh my god, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, good point. Everyone's just like a little more sassier, but yeah, it was really impressive like how faithful the anime adaptation is so far. I don't know. I mean, like we didn't read the first 3, so we don't know how closely they are, but like this one was like pretty identical, I think.
I felt like it was.
But Jinshi, I don't know. Something about reading it, something about being in his brain. I don't know. He was like more manly to me when I was reading him. He was like he was just way more attractive to me. I don't know. I really don't know what it is. But being not even really in his head, because there's this moment where, it's when Lakan and his adopted son are being like, hey, can you like actually declare war on this family and like get that going?
Yes.
And he's like, okay, I'm Kazugetsu, basically. So there's a line where it's like, Kazugetsu stood, and then I was like, oh, okay, so going forward, the narrator is going to call him by that name, or he's going to think of himself by that name going forward, and that doesn't happen. The narrator, and like, they're still referring to him as Jinshi, and that's part of what made me be like, okay, actually, this is Mao's point of view, even though it's technically third person. This is coming from her understanding of events because I think she's just always going to call him that. Because of that one piece of dialogue that she says where he'll always be Jinshi to her.
I know. It's so cute.
But I think she thinks more fondly of him, too. Like, everyone's a lot more sassier, but it feels like in her inner dialogue, she's a lot more fond of him.
Yeah.
You get more moments like that. No, not at all. And you're jogging my memory now, like in that big confrontation, because it is a big moment in the story when Lock-on is like, hi, you can't be Jinshi the eunuch anymore because my daughter's in danger and like the jig is up. You've been playing house in the rear palace for long enough. Like you need to actually do your job. And I think what's interesting about the way that the light novels are structured is that, yeah, most of it is like third person omniscient with like Mao's head.
Yeah.
But then you have chapters like Ba Sen's point of view when they have that where Lock-on like gauges whether Shisha was colorblind or not, and Odd was actually the one who's Jinshi that whole, yeah. So in the same way, like I think that that chapter is a lot of just Jinshi's head, and I think there is just a little bit of this like rawness that you get from him that you don't get in the anime, where you're really getting the kind of the turmoil that he's going through. Really, like I think that that comes across a lot more in the light novel than it does in the anime, and even in their reunion moment when they like reunite briefly in the fortress when Jinshi, when she's like, hi, can you protect me by any chance? Like, still not processing. I feel like Mama was like in the midst of processing the fact that he's there because she's like, why is this man here? And then he's like, actually, Lee Haku's going to help you out. And then he just like goes to go handle business. And, yeah, he leaves. And Mao's internal dialogue in that moment is like, oh, but it was so comforting to see him. And like, it brought like a soft smile, you know, to her face because it was very comforting to have this like back and forth banter with him that she hasn't had in so long because Maomao is kidnapped for a couple of weeks. Like I feel like it's a pretty substantial amount of time that she is like missing for. So I think that those moments are quite lovely. And I think that there are also some times where I think the anime takes a much lighter approach to certain things happening in the story. Like I would say that the experiment that Maomao does at the very end when she's like trying to cut a piece of her pinky off, like in the anime, it comes across very fun and comedic and kind of just like Maomao being zany, being a mad scientist, like that type of vibe. But when you read it in the light novel, at least when I remember reading it, she's really tired. She's been up all night when she is like in that moment about to cleave her pinky off. And she also is talking about how, you know, she's never going to be able to be in service to Jinshi again and how she doesn't even know what his name is. Like we know that he's the Moon Prince, but she doesn't actually know his name. And she's like, even if I did know his name, I could never speak his name because our social statuses are so far apart. So it comes across a lot more melancholy than I think the anime makes it out to be, where you're like, oh, she's sad. Like she is sad that like the past couple of years of her life have just been ripped away from her after she was kidnapped and didn't get to say bye to her friend. And like, yeah, you get a lot more of the turmoil in the light novel, which I think is nice.
Yeah, that was really interesting because I think it is in Ba Sen's point of view. Like you said, Mama was like, even if I knew his name, I couldn't call him by his name. Ba Sen also says, like, he thinks his name. He's like, I can never say it out loud, but I can't believe that this guy that I've just been seeing around the palace for so long is the prince and now is leading me. And I just specifically remembered the moment when he said he could never speak his name out loud, and I was like, that's kind of dramatic. That's a little dramatic. And something that I think the book did well is obviously, like, we know that the time is passing, but we're not really sure how much. But I think I liked where she was talking about her days in the fortress and how, like, she couldn't really keep count because she would get in trouble kind of if she started keeping count. And because it's like snowy and the weather is weird, she doesn't really know how many days are passing. And so, and like talking about her meals and stuff, it felt like a lot more like melancholy and like dire. She's like, yeah, I'm having fun, I'm reading all these books, it's like a treasure trove of knowledge that I would have never had access to. But also she's like just locked in this room by herself just reading, and like the days are passing and she has no idea how long she's been there. I think that adds to like the relief that she feels later when she sees Jinshi, even from the balcony, and she sees him down below, and she's like, no, there's no way. He doesn't have that kind of time. But no, he's got time.
Yeah, I feel like Maomao in general, like in the anime, it's clear that she is like very logical, but it's made even more clear. Like, just how she is just so, like, this is the reality of, like, what I'm in every moment. Like, even in, like, the beginning when she's talking to Zhao Lin, and she's like when she breaks the ice, or when she like needs a new job, like she is thinking about it so like to the point of like, this is the reality of the situation, and like, you know, she is really young, but like I will introduce her to the pleasure district if I need to, like, and it's like that's made clear in the anime, but reading it, it is so much more clear like how realistic, like, because we always talked about how we like compare her to Katniss, that
Yeah.
she like is so just in this situation where she doesn't have time to think about romance, like she's surviving, and I feel like it's made even more clear that she is like in just survival mode. Like that's how she knows how to live in the book.
But that's why, okay, can I make this comparison? I'm sure you've seen this comparison. Maomao and Jinshi are very much Haruhi and Tamaki vibes, and the reason why I say that, especially like why I bring that up, is because Maomao is like so, like she is so practical, but like she's so sad when this reality isn't her reality anymore, how like her life changes, because it started to feel like her safe place. Like she felt safe enough to like make friends with Zhao Lin and oh my god, Shisui.
Our girl
Shisui. And she like chose that type of employment. Like Jinshi was like, hey, I can buy you back, and she's like, yes, actually do that, I would love to go back there. Like she's in a place now where she's like choosing like what she's doing and the friends she's making, and that's why it hits so hard when she's like, I shouldn't say anything, I shouldn't be sticking up for this little kid or anything, but she does, and it's because she's getting more comfortable feeling her this is my reading is she's feeling more comfortable feeling her feelings, because she's like very, very slowly coming out of survival mode, and then like that completely gets taken away from her. But that is more evidence to why I think Tamaki and Haruhi were always meant for each other, because Tamaki made her feel safe enough to want something for herself, and I think it's like a very similar dynamic where it's like she eventually chose to like stay with them, and wanted him by her side and was genuinely sad about it. But it's like if you look at them just from the outside and you're not in their heads, they both look very like nonchalant. They're very nonchalant until it's like a life or death or like make or break situation. Then it's like, okay, well, I have to show that I care, otherwise everything's gonna be ruined. So in those moments where it's like life or death, Maomao will be more vulnerable now, and I just felt more of that. She was much more relatable. I think being able to be in her head made her a lot more relatable to me. But I don't know.
I can see that. I agree.
She doesn't know what I'm talking about with Tamaki and Haru.
Oh, it's Tamaki and Haru. Yeah, I can see that. I think that it's kind of a similar playbook. Obviously, like just literally it's quite similar. You have like a girl who hasn't grown up with a lot of privilege, who's had to take care of the people around her, and this guy that is really privileged and also is kind of learning what his privilege is through interacting with somebody who's coming from a very different world than he is. And I think in the same kind of vein that Tamaki makes Haruhi feel comfortable enough to want things and makes her actively want to seek out things that she wants in this way that she hasn't, because her whole life has kind of been about just kind of getting by, sacrifice, and not really thinking about herself at all, and get really decentering herself because she had other things to worry about. I think in a kind of similar vein to that, I feel like when you start to see kind of Maomao and Jinshi's relationship developing, it also feels like you have this girl who's trying really hard not to care because of like safety, and also sometimes just inconvenience and the fact that it's just a lot of energy to care. But then on the flip side, you have Jinshi, who goes out of his way, like inconveniences himself to make time to be around Maomao.
Inconveniences
I think it's
his
also
employees.
because like I think season 1 is fresh in my head right now, because again we're doing it for YouTube, but like even when he finds out that she's like gone home with Lihaku, and you find out that he spent like so long like getting all of his paperwork done so he could come and visit her. And she can't comprehend that. Like she can't comprehend the fact that somebody wants to inconvenience themselves to be around her.
That's
Um,
so real.
but I agree with also the idea that she is kind of in survival mode. I think that like principle's always been kind of a part of Mao Mao's character. I think even in like the first episode, like the pilot, when she decides to leave those notes for the concubines, even though she knows that that is something that she probably shouldn't do. And I think that, like you said, I think Jinshi facilitates like an environment where she can do more of those things. And honestly, to some degree, I think she was just like, hey, I don't know if I'm getting out of this alive, so I might as well like just do what I have to do.
That's part of why she just fell into like her routine anyway. She's like, I'm just gonna survive as long as I can. But then something interesting happens and she can't help herself.
I'm so interested to see where it goes from this ending.
I saw something that kind of scared me.
Oh.
And I want to bring it up. It was from someone who had read the light novel.
Okay.
I didn't like get too much detail. It was like very much like a non-spoiler, but it did scare me. And I want to, since I had to see it, I'm going to tell you about
Okay,
it.
and all of you guys have to see it too.
This girl's like, hey, so next season, when Junshi does whatever he does, don't worry about it. No, he didn't. And I'm like, that's scary.
Yeah.
That's so scary to me because I'm reading book Jinshi and I'm like, this is my man actually.
I feel like I know one thing that's controversial that happens in the future, and so I wonder if it's that.
I thought it was just the neck bite at the end of this light novel, which I loved even more reading it. I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought that was just like the thing that people were getting mad at him about.
From what I've seen, I think he just maybe is like a little more aggressive. Is that?
So yeah, this is the infamous light novel 5 ending. It ties back into something that we talked about earlier, which is the language thing, where like you are watching it in Japanese, you're getting translations. So this is an instance where that's happened because I remember I read it and I made a video about it, kind of going over my perspectives because people wanted them because they're like, this is controversial. And then people were commenting that, hey, like you should go look up Reddit threads with translations that have been done into other languages. And what you learn from this is that I think it's a man who translates the Apothecary Diaries light novels for North American distribution. And the way that because translation is so subjective, it's a very interesting kind of rabbit hole to go down when you see like how different translators will interpret different things and add their own biases to translations, which is why people say like everything's political, but translations are also political. And when you look at the way that this part of the light novel and this interaction between Jinshi and Maomao is translated into other languages, it comes across very differently. And the English translation is actually kind of in the minority, it seems, in the way that it's translated versus the French version versus like other languages. Like it comes across very differently. So I would say that when you get to that point in the light novel, to go and look up the translations, basically the translations of the translations that have been done, to provide context, because I think that this moment it's honestly I think only a problem within kind of the English fandom when they read it, because it makes sense. I totally understand why people felt that way. I also felt that way after I read it, where I was like, oh, this is interesting. But I don't want to give too much away, but like when you read the other translations, it makes more sense. And I think it's more in line with who Jinshi and Maomao are and like what their dynamic is. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to say, because again, I don't want to spoil it for you, because I think it is like it'll be an interesting journey for you to go on. But yeah, something happens at the end. I wouldn't say that it's something that you need to get mad about. You need to get mad at Jinshi about.
Okay. So a little tease for our next book club.
Yeah, I'm inclined to not be mad at Jinshi.
I'm inclined to look past anything.
And I'm sorry, this would have made more sense before to say, but Maomao starts to like be more demanding herself. Like being around Jinshi makes her more demanding. Like she starts like kind of just like, she's like, hey, I shouldn't say this, but I want this and I want this and I need this and you have to get me this.
True.
She like starts.
Well, she trusts him, I feel like.
Yeah, that's true. But that's the thing. It's like with her actions and with her like asks, she trusts him, but also in her head, she's like, I think maybe it's still that denial where it's just like, I can't trust him, I don't want to know anything. But also, this is how she just like behaves with him in a way that she wouldn't any other noble.
Yeah,
at all.
she's so different. Even like with her friends, like I feel like she acts differently with him
Yeah.
than she acts with her friends, and like with really anyone. Like they just have a different dynamic together.
I don't think she would even demand anything of her friends.
Yeah, I don't think she would either.
No. She would just be like, oh, you poor child. She's like, we're the same age, but...
Okay, so since this is a book club, should we get into some book club question?
Oh, this is always like a great, just like an English major question when you're talking about a book. Okay, what is like the biggest like theme and like takeaway from, like, let's pretend that the anime doesn't exist.
Okay,
and then what's like the biggest takeaway from the novel, like theme-wise?
I feel like for me, this is, I don't know, kind of random, but
Okay.
it's just so apparent to me how different the like dynamics are with them than like what I'm used to in like in my normal everyday life. Like even like their romance being so unspoken but like it's known but like unspoken.
It's unspoken on one end. I would say it's kind of very much spoken on the other end.
But it's still not, you know?
Okay.
Like, I feel like there's so many instances when I read Jinshi and Maomao that I'm, like, expecting halfway to have, like, a big love confession. Or, like, a big, like, even, it was really apparent to me when Jinshi is talking to Lakan. And, like, there's never anything brought up of, like, yeah, I care about your daughter, too. Like, that is just completely not talked about.
That's true. And that would have been a great time to bring it up. Like, listen, you think I'm just sitting around? Like, I am worried sick, okay? But I you know what? Actually, okay, come to think of it, the only reason he was legally able to do anything was because Lakan and, what's his son's name again?
Lahan.
It was almost exactly the same. It was just a one-letter difference, and I couldn't remember which letter it was. Thank you. He wasn't able to do anything until they gathered all the actual evidence to be able to declare war. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lakan. I understand. Like, you're, like, stressed out right now. Okay, that's your baby girl, I guess. But, like, he can't legally do anything until you guys give him the legal reason to. So that's my Jinshi defense right now.
Okay.
Maybe
number
like
one Jinshi defender.
I felt it was very much more like I don't it kind of seems like a cop out to say like the seasons, but and because like time passing is so important to like any story, but especially this one. But you know, the way they talk about the rear palace being like a garden, and Maomao's like experiencing snow, and especially with like the comparing the children to like the bugs that would be like reborn or like wake up at like during the spring at the end of winter. I feel like, and just like, this is also more about like Maomao's, yes, the actual change in her literal life that she's going through now, or being forced to go through now.
Her season of life she's in.
Yes. No, but like her literal season of life changes. Yeah. And so like it's very like, to me, autumn to winter. Like something is dying, but like with the knowledge that it's gonna be reborn again later on. Like, and it's also about like her, like she just feels very different to me by the end. Like she is like so practical and logical, like you were saying, like very much like, that's why it's so easy to understand, because she's literally just listing all of these facts that we're reading in a book, and so we get it. But then by the end she like is like very melancholic, and like she's like, oh, it brought us, she couldn't like help the smile that it brought to her face to see him there.
Well, and I know, like, the story, like, is kind of different from here on out. Like, she's not in, like, the same, like, the place that she's not in the same setting. She's like doing different, like there's different things, and like they even made that clear as they announced the next season in the movie, that like
Yeah. Oh my
it's a
god.
change in like how things are gonna be. So I don't know. What's your takeaway on like how this like kind of closes this season of her life, and like the like overarching theme of that like change
Yeah, your
as it
theme
goes into?
reading. Your
Yeah.
theme reading too.
No, actually, I'm gonna piggyback off of your some of your stuff that you said, Allie, with the idea of seasons in a garden, because I was gonna say that I think a lot of what this light novel is about is resentment and the resentment of women. And because I think the story is about women, right? Like I think that's
Right.
obvious to anyone watching. This is about women. But I think that almost like a garden that's had weeds in it for too long, or something that's made a certain crop, well, like there's like an infection that's like festered, like festering resentment is like the title of one of the episodes, and I think one of the chapters or two of the chapters, because you have this kind of resentment within the inner palace that's formed with these older women that run this clinic, who have secretly been working behind the scenes to essentially sabotage the emperor's lineage by getting rid of the kind of rules that Mao Mao's father had laid out before he got kicked out. Because that's what really sparks this, is like she sees this list, takes it to the practical school like that they've opened, because her dad wants them to, like the palace women, to practice with this, so they have this like embedded into them. So like no toxic face powder, none of this, none of that. And then she learns from that eunuch that these rules had already been written before. And she's like, oh, that's interesting. And then from there, she starts to put the pieces together, goes to the clinic, gets kidnapped. We end up where we end up. But I think that's a festering resentment, where you see the sabotage happening from the inside of a garden that's also a cage, because these women are caged into this space. Like they have not been outside of the rear palace since they were 10 years old, which is its own like tragedy. And then you also have Shenmei's resentment, which fuels everything else that happens after that, because she is the one who really wants this to go down the way that it goes down. And the only reason she really wants to do it is because she feels vindictive, because she feels like she's been slighted, she's been made a fool. So yeah, I would say that that is what I feel like a lot of the season is. But I do think I agree, it's a big change for Mao Mao. She's going through a lot of changes. I think that she's been going through changes since the beginning, but I think especially in this kind of season, as she was kind of getting adjusted to life in the rear palace, things were so good. She's making ice cream with her friends, like, she's adjusting to life, and then she has the rug ripped out from underneath her. And yeah, I think that light novel 5 does look very different. It's honestly, I enjoy it more than light novel 4. I will say, I think it's a lot of fun in where we get to go, but it's
I'm
very, very
so
different.
scared, genuinely.
I'm
I'm
excited.
terrified.
No,
Uh
don't be scared. It's so much fun. It's such a fun light novel.
did you have anything about the light novel that we haven't talked about that you wanted to bring up and like make sure that we knew and like shared with everybody?
As the expert.
As the expert, we do call you that. We call you the
Yeah,
Apothecary
whenever
Diaries
we
expert.
we'll just bring you up in the podcast and we'll be like, well, Yumna was talking about this.
Yep.
I don't know. I had like little tidbits that I thought were fun that got left out of the anime. That's been like my thing recently, is seeing what gets left out of the anime. That's like not, it's not
Ooh.
like a big, they're not like consequential things to the plot, but I think that they're just like interesting things that the anime's opted to leave out.
Like what? I was like actively looking for things that were left out.
I know, I feel like I didn't notice a lot, so I'm intrigued.
So I could be wrong about this one. This could have been mentioned in Mama's internal dialogue, but when she's confronting, I believe her name is Shenlu, the old lady who runs the clinic. Um, so because initially Mama is like, she goes there to like, understand what happened, because she's a bit curious now. She's like, why were these rules suddenly changed, whatever, whatever. And I think it happens on page 90, at least in my copy, but like she basically opts at one point to not press her for more answers, because she's like, okay, I don't want to get this woman in trouble. Like, because Mama was never going there to get any kind of like justice or to figure, like, she just wanted to satisfy her own curiosity about why Loman's rules had been like completely disregarded, even though he had written them before. And like these women would have known about it because they've been here for so long, and they're clearly literate because there's like books everywhere. And so she decides that she's going to leave. This is right before she sees the insect book, which, and then like Suire walks and everyone walks in, and then everything happens. But she basically doesn't want to continue pressing Shenlu, because she is worried that this clinic is going to get dismantled, and she doesn't want the palace women to lose this space where they can actually get proper medical care, which I thought was very much like Malma recognizing the nuances of a situation and also having compassion for people, being like, I don't want people to lose this resource. So, like, I'm not going to say anything, but then obviously things escalate.
I don't know if it's like in that scene or if it's just when she's on her way to talk to her, but I do think she has that thought in the show at some point, or it might be when she's leaving the clinic, like after talking to someone over a different thing right before she runs into Jinshi. I think that might be like in her head in the anime, right before she runs into Jinshi.
Like at a different point.
Yeah, like at a different point when she's talking about she's just noticing that like there's a lot of women here and how this is like a good resource, and how she like wants it to stay open. But also after reading it, I might have just like inserted that into the anime where I think that makes sense. But you were talking about it and I was like, no, that sounds really familiar. I feel like I saw that. But also I could totally just be projecting it into where I think in the anime it should go.
True. That is the hard thing with reading something you've already seen. It all just kind of clicks.
It melds together, especially when the adaptation is so faithful. Did you read this before you watched this season?
I did. So it's kind of like a sandwich for me where like I had read it, but I was also reading it really fast. Like I don't think I processed it as much when I was initially reading it because I was kind of like, I need to read it. I need to get it done before the episode comes out because it helped me just with getting videos out quicker of like explaining things that were happening. But I did reread the chapter where Maomao kind of puts everything together right before she gets kidnapped. And it's, I think, one of my favorite chapters from the light novel. It feels like a very penultimate moment. It almost feels like it feels like almost one of the, like in some ways it feels like it has more gravity to it than like what happens afterwards, even though afterwards there's a whole rebellion happening. But like the way Mao Mao's like, oh, so like they were stuck here. And then, you know, because this maid was super talkative in the Crystal Pavilion, you know, Shenlu probably caught wind of the fact that, you know, Li Hua and Xin don't have a great relationship. And so she sent this really talkative maid with this list of stuff to, you know, keep away from Li Hua so that, you know, she could successfully, you know, have babies and not have it interfere with like her fertility, her ability to get pregnant. And she's like, well, if that fell into the wrong hands, and then, you know, if you've been around in the palace long enough, you can whisper in these merchants' ears and get these perfumes brought in every time. Like, it just all the way that like it's kind of told, I think also I was like, oh, so like even little things that I was maybe confused about or I had forgotten, like it feels a lot clearer after you have read, watched, and read. I think it was a lot of like clarity, I think, in reading parts of the light novel.
Yes, it was so interesting for me to read that part of like, wow, this has really been this like thing they've been working on for years. And like it's like the whole thing where it's like women like have gossiped throughout history to survive. Like it really felt like that type of thing of just like women like harnessing their powers as women and like what they could do in their positions. And like they got it done.
They really did. So I'm learning don't be a pick me. I'm learning to be a girl's girl from this conversation.
I think that's fair. I think to a certain degree, I feel like none of them really can be girls in a certain capacity just by virtue of the job that they're in. As the light novels go on, you kind of get an understanding of like all of the factors that go into the emperor deciding who his top pick is.
Okay.
So, okay, we'll learn more about that.
True.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Yumna.
Our Apothecary Diaries expert.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
Wow, we sure can yap.
Way too much yapping. Oh my
Way
god.
too
Do
much
we ever
yapping.
shut up?
The answer is no. We can't even shut up to like do our intro and outro without interrupting each other.
Literally.
Yeah, we had a lot to say. I hope you guys enjoyed that discussion. I feel enlightened.
I feel so enlightened. Thank God we had Yumna here. She is the best. She just makes everything make more sense to me. Like the light novel made everything make more sense to me.
No, exactly. Maomao and Yumna are like linked in that way.
They are so linked in my mind.
And so yeah, she'll be joining us, we do believe, for our book clubs. And if you want to be involved in our book clubs, remember to sign up for our mailing list and make sure to message us and comment your questions, comments, and thoughts about the club and the light novel. And if you want to remain involved and see what we're up to on the podcast, make sure you follow us on social media at Anime for Blondes Pod on TikTok and Instagram.
And make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And make sure that you like and comment and leave a review, whatever you're able to on each platform. We have been getting so much love from you guys lately, and it has been amazing. And we are just so excited to keep making content for you. And we're so excited for the new year.
And we will see you next week in November.
Bye!
Anime for Blondes.